Welcome to Coach's Corner, folks. We're so glad to have you here. It's the Hess and Horn show going on today. Both of us are coaches, and we're going to talk a little bit about what coaching is and maybe isn't in many ways. Coaching is a word that means different things, definitely to different people. Some think of sports, others think of therapy, and some aren't really sure what it looks like in business or life. Today, Katrine and I want to explore what coaching really is and why it matters.
Why it really matters, right? And yet, I'm sure you'd agree with me that people sometimes hesitate and they say, well, what exactly does a coach do and why do I need one and should I hire one or not? So they're very hesitant about it. Do you know why?
Oh boy, isn't it's a deep question. When we go back to our youth, for at least on a US side, but I think it's true in almost all of our first experience with coaches typically as a youth is in youth sports. You know, if you go to a piano lesson, are you going to a piano coach? No, you're going to a piano instructor. But the reality is the piano instructor is a coach. And we're all coaches. And we have to realize where we get our help and how we grow. And many people hesitate, I think, because of their original experiences, maybe with coaches that they had, and that didn't quite work out. And they go, what is a coach? And so, as a person, as a business coach, in my field, it's about giving back and growing and having an abundant mindset with everybody I work with. I don't know, that's been kind of my feeling about it, but it's hard to get people to trust and come on board and say, yeah, now when that works and when there's a commitment, oh my gosh, the growth has been phenomenal. How have you found that on your end, Katrine?
Yeah, I think it's when people don't believe that they can get to their goal, really. Like I talk with people who've got big dreams, which is fabulous, but then they tell themselves, oh, maybe I can't do that. Maybe I'm not the person to do that and all of that. So they start doubting a lot and then they talk themselves out of it, right? The more we spend time in our minds unsupervised,
Right.
the more we create all the barriers really for our own growth. So it's about getting out of your own mind and really looking at, well, do I want this to stop me or do I want to just go ahead? I think that's really the bottom line, don't you?
Absolutely. From a numbers perspective, those coaches that have, or those clients that have committed to me as their coach, I can say that they would pay me, let's say $6,000 for the year, 500 a month for me to be their business coach, and they've grown their revenues by over $100,000 against that 6,000. That's a pretty good investment. Now, it's not just the coach, it's so much more. So, when people hear the word coach, they sometimes confuse it with being a consultant or a therapist even. Katrine, what do you see as the biggest misconception people have about what a coach actually does?
Yeah, I think for me, I work with people on their personal lives. So for me, they don't know the difference between therapy and coaching. And if you believe you want therapy, it's because you're still dealing with your past and there are things you haven't come to term with and you want to get clarity on that, which is perfect. So coaching is really for people who are already well functioning, but they want more. They are not settling for what they've got now because they're here to grow. They're here to experience more. They've got big dreams and they want to test themselves almost, or they want to challenge themselves to find out, well, am I the person who can achieve that? Right. So they're already doing well. Like often my clients are high achievers and their lives look really, really great, except there are a few things that could be even better. And that's really how I see coaching. It's making lives even better. So therapy has got a place, coaching has got a place, and consulting has got a place, right? So up to people really to find out what would make the biggest difference in their lives. And for me, many of my clients have already gone through therapy. And of course, that has been useful for them at some point.
Mhm.
But then therapy is not adequate when you want to really go that extra mile and not just have a good life, but have that exceptional life that I think we all deserve. What are your views on that, Coach Hess?
Oh, I think that's great. I so agree with you in terms of just opening it up to a higher level. I mean, think about again my athletic background and what coaches have done for players. I mean, I can give a lot of stories about that, and it's great. But one of the things I found is the difference for me as a coach versus maybe a consultant would be that I really want to teach people how to fish rather than fish for them. As a
Mm,
consultant, I function as a consultant at times, and I do the fishing. Example, I've had clients that don't really understand their numbers, don't really understand a spreadsheet, don't really understand how to copy, cut, and paste, maybe even. Well, for me to get that person wrapped around having to figure out, get their P&L structure and their pro forma and the numbers right so we know what our profit and our cash and all the flows are, taking them down that path and trying to get them to do it themselves would take too long. Where I'm an expert in that, I get it done for them, show, and I do it for them. So there is a consulting role. But as a coach, they're now seeing the number. Now I'm coaching to those numbers, and guess what? Over time, they take over and take control. But it doesn't happen overnight. So I have to know how to be a transitionary type coach in terms of moving from consultant to coaching sometimes in order to get people. Because hey, it's self-discipline's the only discipline that matters when it comes down to it. So
right.
that's kind of my feelings on this whole thing of really what is a consultant, what is a coach, and the difference between those two.
Mm. Yeah, I so agree. And that's a place for everything, right? It's not that one thing is right and the other is wrong. There's a space for everything.
Yeah,
And I think for our clients, if they are just conscious of or cognizant of what it is they are looking for, what is their goal, it gets to be so much easier to decide, well, what would support me in that goal? And I think that's a fundamental question, really.
yeah, absolutely.
And then also as coaches, we've got such a unique relationship with our clients.
Yeah,
For it's about their growth, right? It's about their breakthroughs. And for us coaches, it's us revealing for them
yeah,
what they can do. Like it's not coaching is not meant to be ongoing forever, right? It's to get them to a particular goal. So, how does it feel for you to be part of that process?
well, my relationship, I think that I really love in terms of the coaching side is where I feel like I'm part of the family. I'm right in with the owners. My dedicated coaching goes all the way down to the person that answers the phone, all the way up to the person who runs the company. I work with all of them in a group. As many as 50 people in a company at times, I'll know in one group I'm coaching. Typically, it's more around 20 and, 10 and 5 even in some of the groups. But I think the relationship that you have with your client and over time, you become part of that family. I mean, it's down to knowing the birthdays, knowing who's doing what, all the way through the staff, and finding out where some people's weaknesses might be, or the company's weaknesses are. It might be in our conversion rate off of our phone calls on the front end of the answering process that goes on for sales calls. So that's where I'll focus. But I'd like to be able to take my coaching to where it's needed inside of and that's the relationship when people keep coming back, because I've had clients for 4 years and I think, gosh, they've got everything I know from them, but it's the relationship and the growing. I mean, with this new technologies and everything that's going on, I do my best to meet people like you, Kat, and Katrin, and others in our networking groups to bring more strength back to my coaching abilities to help my clients. That's the power, I think, of what we have in today's world and the relationship we can have in coaching.
Yeah, if I can just add something to that, because you as a business coach, you are able to bring in other people if needed, or refer to some other help that they might want to also be supported by. And I often work with nutritionists, I work with
Right.
wellness experts, I work with lots of people who also support my clients in having the optimal health, for instance, or whatever it is they're in need of. So I think it's very much about getting started somewhere
Yeah.
Just taking that first step and then see it evolve. What do you think?
Well, my thinking on that, when you mentioned that, is that the beauty of what we get to do as coaching is that our learning curves are always increasing. And that's so much fun. For me, that's a joy. And that means that I'm learning from my clients. Not only do I get to help them with what they're doing, they're helping me at the same time. And they're actually paying me for doing it. I guess it's kind of a win-win on my side, but it's a win for their business. I know that. But it's the learning. It's so much fun in all the different groups. Katrine, you work with life and mindset, primarily, I think, on your side, and I'm kind of focused on the business. But I know our worlds collide in a big way, right? We've talked about that before. Where do you see the overlap and where do you see the differences between kind of how the business coach versus the life coach is functioning?
Yeah. So I often work with the CEO, who is the leader, right? So I work with that person as a person. So one moment we can be talking about their teenagers who are no longer communicating, or we could be talking about really their next holidays and how that can be a source of disagreement in the family, or we can just be talking about how they feel with their partners. It can be anything, but how we work on the person is what they will bring to their company. So the better they feel in life, the more they are clear on who they want to be, and the more they can embody that person, well, the more they bring to their company. But I don't get involved in any kind of business decision, or I don't give business advice. I don't really get involved in their business because I stay with the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I get it. And so often, what I've run into on the business coaching side, kind of on the other side, is that people are coming to me with business problems. And we look at those problems. It might be the hiring process. It might be getting the right people on the bus. You know how important that is. I mean, that might be the issue for them, or motivating them properly, or getting the right customer experience. What does that look like for the customer experience? Well, so often it comes back to how they view that. For example, a book I'm just putting out at the end of the month is really focused on not only growing business, it's called Achieving Peak Performance, The Entrepreneur's Journey. Not only about building a business and all that, but what it's about is being able to make a win-win scenario with social impact as a business as well, and creating a win-win and making a difference in our society by your business. Right way to think of business, but that's all businesses do that. It's the mindset of the owner and the culture that creates the power within that. And so it's so important to get to that level. Like there's lots of problems, but when they really get solved, it's when people do what you do, Katrine, and that is fixing their head a little bit to say, hey, this is the way we should view it. I should need abundance of, I shouldn't be threatened by those kind of
Mm.
things that happen to us that hold us back.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
great stuff.
So I was wondering, like, let's also talk about something practical for people who are listening.
Yeah.
If they're sort of wondering, would I hire a coach and what would I work towards and all of that, what advice could you give the people who are not sure of what their next step is?
Right. That challenge of coaching, first of all, I think you need to find the coach that you get along with and that you feel comfortable with, that you trust. And that may take more than a 30-minute Zoom session. And fair enough. I think if somebody doesn't have a process in place for bringing you on board in an onboarding structure of what that looks like for them and it's clear, you better look out. If they're just kind of shooting from the hip, they probably don't have more processes and methodologies below what they're doing as an introduction to really take you where you may want to go. There are a lot of coaches that are calling them coaches and they're learning along the way and so on. And more coaches have been showing up on my doorstep asking me to coach them how to coach. And I think that's a real compliment to where I'm at in my life and what I'm doing as coaching. And I love to help them. I do that as a mentor role oftentimes just because I love the concept of coaching. So I think looking at what somebody's doing as a program, understanding a methodology, where am I going, what's my 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year future self look like underneath this type of vision with the coaching? How do we have that? set up in a system that you can achieve that through the goals and so on. And I think you need to look at that when you're talking to a business coach. On the other hand, certainly the life coach side, where do you feel is kind of the
Mm.
entryway and the right path?
Like I've got a life coach. So I choose my life coach according to what have they done that I also want to do. And I like to be coached by somebody who has done what I'm attempting to do, because otherwise it can just be a lot of hot air, can't it? Like, have you actually done what I want to do? That for me is number one. So having a business coach who doesn't have a business doesn't make any sense, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
having a life coach who doesn't walk his or her talk, who hasn't attempted to grow through life, who hasn't done what like who hasn't really become the full version of whom they can be. Like, of course, there's always more, but I really look to that when I choose my coach. And I just got a new life coach because my previous one is on maternity leave. So she's got a good excuse. But I really wanted somebody, for me, it's important to be authentic. And so I looked at the coaches I know and I looked at somebody whom I really admire because she can love herself even when she's not like perfect, I would say. When she's sort of subpar, I think it's important that we love ourselves too. Not that we stay there, but that we can really, really admit that we don't have to be perfect to be lovable. So I really want to model myself on her or make me my version of her. So that's how I choose it. And I would agree with you. We have to be able to get along with the people and we have to have confidence in them. As you say, that they do know what they're doing, right? And that they can get us to where it is we want to go. I think that would be like the most important part.
Yay, that's so much fun. Have you ever had a client, Katrina, that you feel like you care more about them than they care about themselves?
So yes, but I don't want to have a client where I care more about their results than they care about their results,
Right,
right? Because
right.
when people come to me, they're not always very good at loving themselves. So that's really the first bit we start on. So that's okay. But they have to care more than me about their results, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't think they were coachable, really. What
It
do you
really
think?
is the case. I've run into it too, where I get that feeling and I got to remind my client, hey, I'm just on as this is your business, it's your equity we're building here, it's your life. Come on, and yeah, but I have had that feeling once or twice along the way, and it's kind of like, wow, but when you care a
Mm.
lot, that's what happens to you, and I think both of you and I are in the caring business. We really care about our clients and we want them to succeed in a big way. At the end of the day, coaching is
Otherwise, we
about,
wouldn't be doing this. Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we do, right?
yeah, well, really, at the end of the day, coaching isn't about fixing you, right? It's about unlocking the full potential of what's already inside you. Whether,
Exactly.
and that's whether in life or in business. And I think that we're both in such parallel with that. And that's why we do what we do, is because of that situation. So I want to thank you for joining us, folks. We're kind of bringing to conclusion. Any final comments, Katrina?
Yeah, I think that everybody deserves to have a coach. So I know that not everybody wants one, but if you really think about it, why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself? Why wouldn't you want your business to be at its peak performance? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And come up with a good answer for that. I can't find any. So, I mean, I've always got a coach because that has just allowed me to get so much more out of life.
Oh, I love it. You're absolutely right. And all the coaches I've had in my life, what a difference they've made. I wrote a whole contribution to them in my peak experience of those that had coached me. And oh my gosh, it got long fast. Well, thank you for the time, Katrina, and
It
thank
was my
the audience.
pleasure.
Yeah. And we'll see you all on the other side. Find yourself the right coach. Katrina Horn, Coach Hess are ready to help you get there. Over and out from the desk of Coach Hess.